Hey y'all, it's Chawanna with the Life and Podcast. Y'all, today I actually want to talk about the role of the church. Let me say this, there's a lot of church bashing, and I do not subscribe to that. And the reason being is because I don't believe that there's anything that God made that is not good. Like if God made it, if it's the institution that God created, there's always going to be a blessing behind it. And so there are pain points of it. There are aspects of the church that are pain points for individuals, but it all has to do with your perspective and how you process information based on what I have learned. There are people. And there are times where I have gone into a ministry, and I've left the ministry worse off than I was when I went in. But again, it goes back to mindset. The church is not just the building. It is not deduced to one specific local body. And so when we start categorizing, the church, what exactly are we talking about? We got to keep the main thing. The church is the body of believers. At large, local bodies are local bodies. They are local assemblies where Christians gather. And so sometimes when we're doing all of the church bashing, we got to keep that first and foremost, that it's you may be talking about a specific you may be talking about a specific local body, but you can't make the entire church at large suffer for a specific incident in a smaller local body. But here's the thing that's funny to me. People will deal with a bad relationship for years and years and throw the church away for just a little something. Or they will deal with a job that does not serve them for long periods of time and be faithful to it. But the first sight of a problem at a ministry, they will run away. And I will never understand that. But again, it goes back to perspective. And so when we talk about the role of the church, I think it's important for us to understand that as at large, the role is, I have a list of things, but when I'm looking for a ministry to actually congregate at or, to be a part of, I'm looking for a free atmosphere, like a free environment. And when I say a free environment, I'm looking for a place where I can feel free and not experience none of the extra stuff. And the thing is, I remember going to a church and visiting. Actually, it's my husband's church. So when I went to my husband's church for the very first time, I was boohoo crying, but it was because I didn't feel the extra stuff. And I know that's subjective, but it was like everybody was worshiping freely. I'm not saying that they didn't have any problems, but everyone was on one accord for worship service, right? Because I'm a visitor. I had never been there before. But for a worship experience, there was no one that I could point to that wasn't joining in. And what that told me is that whatever they had going on, it wasn't bad enough for certain people to be looking at another person or certain people sideways. You've been there, you've been to church services, and you like, ooh, what's this? Because there's side eyes when people talk. There's just all of that extra stuff, and you can feel it in the environment. And so I didn't feel any of that. And that was my first time, believe it or not, as an adult, that I experienced a free environment in a church service. No lie. And so when we're looking for an experience, I get what people are talking about when they're saying, church services can be weird, church can be weird. I get it. And it is because that person is not perceiving a free atmosphere. But when I think about all of the things that I have experienced in church, the local bodies, it doesn't make me look at church negatively anymore, because of my perspective. My perspective is different. And my perspective is now based on the fact that I do know that the church is a healing place, right? So when it comes to the role that it plays in our healing, I think when we understand what are the roles that the church plays, I think we can change our perspective. So first and foremost, one of the roles that I do believe that the church plays in our healing is it serves as a place of deliverance. Now, can you get deliverance anywhere? Sure, you can get deliverance at your house. But I think sometimes we take for granted deliverance in the sense of the laying on of hands and that type of thing. And so that is something that I look for. You know, when I'm going to a ministry, do they believe in what the Bible demonstrates? The laying on of hands. It is important. You know, and I never want to get to a place, all of this social media stuff and all of this, you know, we got microwave church and all that's great. But there are some times that you need to walk your butt into a service and let somebody lay hands on you. Is that the end of your deliverance? No. But it is certainly sometimes the beginning of it. The second thing that I do believe is another role is the actual corporate worship. There's something different about, like, I can worship at home, right? I can raise my hands, lift my hands, and put on my favorite worship song. But there's something about actually uniting with other believers and actually lifting up your voices and being on one accord. That's where the Holy Spirit, we actually see it come alive in Acts chapter 2. And so there is power behind corporate worship, connecting with other believers who are like-minded, who have their minds on what you have your mind on, and you believe the same, and you're there ready with expectation so that you can glorify God. That is a powerful thing. Some of the most powerful services that I have been in have been because we all were on one accord. So that's another role of the church, to provide that experience for us. Another thing is the corporate instructions. You can read your word at home. Absolutely. You know, sometimes I get comments under my videos and people are like, okay, well, are you saying that you can't get a word at home? Absolutely. But you also cannot take for granted the mouthpiece of the Lord, meaning the leader of a house, being able to give you instruction for the entire body. There are services that I've been in and I have heard a man of God or a woman of God release a word over the congregation, and I was happy I was in there, you know, because it was for, you know, the corporate body. And so I want to say we cannot take that for granted as well, because sometimes God will speak to the man or woman of God for a collective word, and just because he said it, you know, just like Samuel, because he declared a thing, you reap the benefits of that declaration. And so we can't take that for granted, but then we cannot take for granted being committed to a local body and actually having instructions that are personal. Like, there is nothing like being able to reach your man or woman of God, and because you are able to touch and reach and contact directly, they can give you insight based on your specific issue, right? You can go and search YouTube for you know, a word that is pertaining to your issue. But it's different when that person, that woman or man of God, has been able to see your patterns. They have been able to see you in different seasons of your life, and they can give you a specific word. So that itself is a great part of your healing journey as a Christian. There's also, what would I say? I would say the fellowship that comes along with the church is something that we also take for granted as well, because you know, we believe in being off to the side. I am that person. I've said it before. I am that person who, I'm good with coming to church and heading on out, because I don't want to get too personal with the people there. I've been known for that, but I've also learned that rubbing elbows with people, becoming part of certain organizations and having to bump heads sometimes and not agree and learn how to work through those things. Those are huge opportunities for growth that sometimes we take for granted as well. And so I know that these are not all the roles of the church, but they certainly are some foundational ones that help us to heal. Right? It doesn't matter what trauma you have experienced in your life. When you make up in your mind that you are now following the Lord, and you allow your life to be impacted by the church, you will go on a journey of healing. And when you understand that the church can provide all of these different things, then it makes you more understanding that it's not just you coming to the church, it's everybody. And everybody has all of their different issues. And so it makes it easier for you to have grace for other people, because you're dealing with some stuff too. And so this probably will be a part 2. But I want to hear, what are your thoughts? These are the ways that I think the church impacts our life. And these are the things that I think that we cannot take for granted. And so when you're looking for a church, I want to talk to the person that's looking for a church. Look for a body of believers, a local body of believers, when you're looking for a local body that is sensitive to the fact that we all have issues. Not only that we're sensitive to the fact that we all are growing, and sensitive to the fact that we all need something different. Like, we're not all in the same place. And I think that's where we should start when we're looking for a local body. But then as a whole, it's also important for us to understand that we can't make a local body pay or we can't make the church at large pay for some little things that aren't great about a specific local body. Stay up.